What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Masonic or Not. My name is Keon.
I'm AJ.
And I'm Brian. What's up?
Hey, yeah, you are.
Here I am. Ta-da.
We have a very special guest today. Our very own Brother Junior Warden, Brother Brian Askins. Wait, there's like a...
Hey everyone. Hey, it's so good to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's me. I'm glad to be here. Thank you guys.
Glad to have you.
Yeah, so we want to get to know you first, get the audience to know you as well. So tell us how Freemasonry found you, or how you found Freemasonry.
Oh man, I don't think Freemasonry had to find me, and I definitely didn't have to go find Freemasonry. It was something I was born into, literally. My grandfather was a Mason. His father was a Mason. My father was a Mason.
Wow.
And so, as far as I know, I can legit say I'm a fourth generation Mason in my family.
Wow.
And so it was just always something I grew up knowing that, you know, I wanted to be a Freemason. It was something that I watched my grandfather and my dad, they'd go off and they'd have that one night a week when they were going and doing Masons. One night a year, depending on, you know, what chair they were serving or what they were doing in the lodge, where I'd get to go and I'd get to see them, you know, walk around, and they were usually in, you know, suit or sometimes a tuxedo, and it was really cool. In fact, I remember one time being able to present my gavel, or my grandfather, his gavel, in the year that he was master.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a cool experience, and it's one of the things I really, really remember and really, really treasure. So,
Wow. I can see that. I can see that leaving a big impression on you as a child, or just growing up.
It was huge, and it was always something that I knew was a really special deal. Like I don't remember like being prepared for it. I don't remember my mom or anyone, you know, trying to prep me for it. I just remember it being handed into my hands and saying, "Hey, you got to go walk it up. Go see Papa."
Nice.
Like, okay, and
Wow.
you know, I remember he was already wearing his top hat. He was already dressed in his tuxedo. You know, it was obviously a big night. And I just remember handing it up to him, and I'm knowing, you know, inside, hey, that's a really big deal. Someday I hope I get to do this and be on the other end, even though I didn't know what that was.
Did you see like his apron case or any kind of like, were there any like certain ad or show, or was it completely hidden from you as far as like visually? And also like, were there maybe like symbols or something? Like, was it an apron, or what was it that like stuck in your head that you associated what they were doing was Masonry?
So it wasn't until he was a past master, and he had his past master's ring, which he had a friend of his, I think another Mason, was a jeweler, and they had custom designed the past master's ring. And I remember it was really, really cool. It was a big gold square. It had a sun that was setting, and it had the past master's emblem. Wow. It was really, really unique, and it was very, very noticeable.
Love it.
You know, it was so noticeable that he used to play Santa Claus, and I remember going and sitting on Santa's lap one year, and I remember saying, "Hey, my papa has a ring just like that." And then it was Santa Claus always wore gloves and took that ring off.
Wow.
But it was that was the one symbol. That in the Holy Bible, I remember the Masonic Holy Bible has always had a prominent place in my home, and
Wow.
I knew that as I grew up, whenever I was going to have my home, I knew I needed to make sure that I had a Masonic Holy Bible prominently displayed, and there's really only one way to get one of those.
Right.
So,
Wow.
That's awesome.
I'm gonna actually take that idea and set mine up on my altar at home.
yeah, you should. I always have mine displayed. It's always sitting out.
Wow.
And my wife, she doesn't come from a Masonic family or have that background until now. And I remember she was always like, "So why is this sitting out again?" I'm like, because this is the heirloom family Bible. This is
Wow.
something that has sat out in my house for anybody's access, including my own,
Right.
prominently, wherever it can be equally viewed and in sight and accessible when needed. And it took her a little while to get used to it, but now she's on it too. In fact, if it's not out in the right place or where it was, she'll ask, "Hey, what happened to the Bible?"
Nice.
Yeah.
I love that. It's a great light.
The great light of Masonry.
That's right.
When did you become a Freemason? Where? And what's one of your best Freemasonry stories?
Okay. Yeah. No, good question. So I'm from Reno, Nevada, and I was raised in Ben Franklin Lodge, number 45. By
Didn't know that.
yeah.
Didn't know that. Okay, go. I thought you were homegrown.
No. Yeah.
No.
Wow.
Ben Franklin, which I was really excited about because I love Ben Franklin as American history. I really dig the guy. Freemason, smart guy. And I had a lot of family and friends who came up for that raising. It was a really big deal. And I did that in 2005. Yeah, 2005. And I know that because at that time, to be a Mason, the age was 21, not 18. It had just been changed to 18 years old. And I was like, oh, man. Of course, now it's lowered, but I waited my turn until I was 21 and then jumped right in. And a favorite Masonic memory. I have a couple, but I would say, I do remember that night that my grandfather, he was inducted in to be master of his lodge. That was a really big Masonic memory. I'm gonna give a really sad example.
Okay. That's fine. Let's do it.
So I think my favorite Masonic memory is when my grandfather died. I was really, really close with him. And he and I had always talked, even after I'd become a Mason, that when he would die, he would have Masonic funeral rites. And he was really proud of it. And I didn't understand why. I hadn't been to, I'd been to one Masonic funeral. I was very young, so I don't remember a lot about it. But I do remember when he died, and I had never seen or experienced so much love and support that had come out from so many people that we were close with, that we weren't close with, that we didn't even know. It was breathtaking.
Wow.
And then to go to that Masonic funeral service for his memorial, every officer of his lodge at that time, including anybody else that had served with him at Madison Lodge in Grass Valley, at Pyramid 13, at Ben Franklin 45.
Are these all Reno
Those are-
lodges?
Yeah, well,
Okay, just wanna
Madison's,
double check.
yeah, Grant Madison's in California.
Oh, okay.
They came and they made sure that the pews were full and the service that was put on was meaningful, and exactly what I imagine my grandfather would have been really, really proud about. And it was the first time in my Masonic career that I understood, that what that means, both as a brother and as a family member, and on the receiving side, and
Right.
and so as sad as that is, it brings me a lot of joy because it was a really beautiful thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say beautiful is the word that comes to mind.
Yeah.
A beautiful homage
It was
and respect to your grandfather, and something that he was passionate about. They were, happy to be there, with him in that moment. I feel like we've sadly enough all been a part of Masonic funerals ourselves.
It's true.
And what you said just sparked that same memory of not like understanding a Masonic funeral service until you've really seen it, and it tugs your heartstrings. It's beautiful.
It is. It really is.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
that.
Absolutely, that was a beautiful memory.
Thank you.
But in my mind, it's such a beautiful thing when you know that about someone that was either, they saw something in their subconscious always.
There's a
or
draw, a pull.
some kind
to
of
it.
fascination,
Yeah.
some small image, and that's the and I think it's because of, all the amount of time that the symbol itself has had to have its association, with the world, and like whether it means something to you yet, it means something.
Yeah, that's
Like there's like a prestige that like has, that the symbol has. It really
Yes.
does. And you want to go deeper, and you want to, in the same way I wasn't a Mason. I shared once when my father was on the program, my great grandfather, who was a second lieutenant and was a white officer in what was called then the colored infantry for the Union. And I have his over, almost 200-year-old cufflinks.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I remember seeing that symbol and not, but knowing like, oh, is it military? Is it some kind of, but there's something really special about this symbol. And my family family wore that. And I just think it's a beautiful thing. It doesn't matter. There's no trivial, meaningless way to find yourself.
To Freemasonry.
Exactly. Whether that's a podcast,
Wow.
whether that's an image that you once saw or a movie, I don't care. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Can I say something?
Please.
And that's the consciousness of Freemasonry. This organization that we're a part of almost has a life of its own, and it can attract and pull certain people to its mysteries.
Absolutely. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I look at what's happening right now in the world in Freemasonry. We've been kind of in our past episodes talking to people who have been in Masonry for 50 years or 30 years, 20 years, 10 years, a couple years, and there's one common thing that always kind of like respawns itself is the necessity to keep it alive and relevant, because it is relevant.
Yeah.
But just somehow more active and in the hands and accessible to people, because it's beautiful in ways that it's shrouded in mystery, because that's some people, that's going to be the lure,
Yeah.
is
Man,
to want to
for
unravel
sure.
what's so special about this.
Especially if
Why-
you're on the spiritual journey.
Absolutely. And all these men throughout history have all said the same thing. Hundreds of years ago, they were speaking so highly of this fraternity as one of the beautiful moral systems that's out there. And I love that it doesn't matter what religion, what race, what age, whatever your experiences were to bring you to this point in your journey. It's all beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's funny you bring that up. I always remember early in my Masonic career hearing a story about how during the Revolutionary War, they would hold Masonic lodges in the camps of the battlefield, and that anyone who was a brother, they would come in and they would fill roles, and that there's this story about how an infantryman who's being bullied all day by his commanding officer goes into the lodge and is seated higher in the chairs, like it's the worshipful master.
Oh, wow. He's moving up.
And the commanding officer is just a lowly steward.
Wow.
And everybody who's watched what's gone on out on the battlefield, they think, oh, the master now is going to take his penance. And that it's like, no, this is not the place to exercise that. When we're here, we are equals. I take my role, but everything that's going on in the outside world, that's not the business here in the
Wow.
lodge. That's not what's going on. So
That's powerful.
He's my brother. He's my equal. This is not my place to get back at him or to chastise him or to take vengeance. This is not the time, and this is not the place. And I remember it being this like study in Masonic morality that I just really I latched onto, and I've never got forgotten about it. In fact, I probably think about it once a month, twice a month.
Wow.
Because I'm like, it's important, right? That's that balance, that level
Yes.
that you got to be, and
And
give
then
the respect.
And through that, what I just saw is through that practice, they're leaving everything worldly outside of the lodge. They come there strictly to learn, put their egos, the world behind, and just do Masonic work.
That's it. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
And I think people have, with their perception of what Freemasonry is and the inner workings of the fraternity, it's like it's part of the process is what I've learned. Like sometimes misinformation and disinformation, which is what we really designed this podcast to kind of like as a goal and a mission to dispel some of that negativity. But then I think one of the lessons that I feel like God or in the universe is kind of showing us is that some misconceptions draw people to learn things for themselves.
Yes.
And as much as I'd like to clear the air on some of the smoke all the time, you start realizing maybe it has its benefits. Maybe it has its place sometimes, and you need to discern the moment, because we don't want to own certain negative or just negative things being said about our fraternity. We don't want to do that. However, some of the misconceptions and things that people hear guide them to do research, and they end up on their own journey, whether it's to prove it is a negative thing or whatever they heard, or some kind of cult or whatever. They go in with that intention only to be proven wrong.
Right.
And they develop their own affinity for the fraternity. That's just natural.
No, that's a really good point. That I think what you just said. Sometimes you need that smoke screen, that curtain, right? that there's a curiosity that people naturally have, and some more naturally than others, and that's what really brings them in and draws them in. And you gotta have it,
Right.
Because you're right. I mean, everybody's got to have their own journey and their own path. I think that's one of the things that's really beautiful. Like we're walking towards the same light, but we're taking different paths to get there.
Absolutely.
And sometimes there are people who got to take that path less trodden.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and start getting that new path for people who hadn't gone that way, right? To start bringing the others in. So
It's very true. And I think it's just a lesson in life in general too, that it's like not everything is for everyone.
Yes.
yeah,
And
And just because it's not for you doesn't make it wrong
right. Absolutely.
or bad, I should say. Wrong, bad, I should say.
Totally. And I kind of look at it, certain things in where people go to wherever they find themselves is like whether maybe their religion or then you start getting into classifications of what kind of Christian are you, Lutheran, Presbyterian, Baptist, or non-denominational. Like those all exist. And the fact that it's like none of them are wrong. They all have their rich history in place.
Walking towards the same light.
They're all walking towards the same light. They're all building the same spiritual temple, right?
that's right.
And I look at that the same thing with Masonry. Sometimes people go on to join the appendant bodies or find further light, and sometimes they stay in Blue Lodge. And there's no scoffing at that. There's no looking down at that. It's a beautiful thing. There is no hierarchy in service.
No, there's a lot of work to be done in Blue Lodge.
Absolutely.
A lot of work.
And whether you want to lend your talents or your gifts to certain areas is like, that's up to you as well. And people always kind of told me, you get what you put into it. and I didn't really understand what that meant, because it sounds like, well, what does that mean? I got to do everything? Like, but that's not what it means.
No,
it means the more you show up, the more you're going to receive, the more you're giving, the more you're going to be receiving.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's a lesson in it goes beyond personal experience. It's something for everyone.
Yeah, just showing up for yourself.
Exactly.
I'm wondering if they print that in a Mason, how to be a Mason handbook that I just haven't seen yet. There's just a step that just says, tell new members you get what you put into it. Because I remember being told that constantly.
100 times. And you're like, what does that mean?
So I need to go work in the kitchen? So I should take out the trash? You want me to be there 9 a.m. Monday through Friday?
Right. Right.
But yeah, I mean, yes.
If you put minimal effort into it, why you can't be mad? Yeah, you can't be mad that that's like your cup is.
Yeah. No.
True.
So
with anything, it's a skill. Freemasonry is a skill.
Yeah.
You got to put time into the trade.
Absolutely.
And the more parts of that trade, the more diverse your work can become.
Yes.
Yeah. And
so cool.
Some people aren't ready to really embark on that journey, to really look in the mirror and focus and really have to work on certain things.
Yeah.
It's really a nice idea to say, but when it comes to really doing the work, it brings out of the things that are inside of you, maybe the insecurities or the weaknesses that you've been kind of allowing in your life, and now they're being brought to the forefront for you to really deal with and get over and move on and be that, pillar, that strength,
Affecting the ashlar.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say that.
Yes.
So you're exposing your imperfect ashlar.
But also being comforted on the journey I'm comforted by the fact that the work isn't ever really done.
No.
We know that we're probably not going to really reach perfection in our lifetime, but that doesn't mean that the effort in that on that path to aspire to that is not something that's to be praised. It's valiant.
Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, speaking of misconceptions, I wanted to pose this question. Well, we were speaking of misconceptions, but I wanted to pose this question to you, Brother Brian.
Yes, sir.
What are some of the biggest misconceptions with Freemasonry that you would like the non-Mason to know?
Oh, it's a great question. I think some of the biggest misconceptions, I'm going to go with ones that I've encountered in my life, because those are the easiest ones to, think about, how I felt and what I would want people to know or react differently about is, when people find out that I'm a Freemason, that I'm active, very involved in working in the community and working with the lodge, there's usually a reaction of oh my God, what do you know that I don't? What government involvement are you in? How many animals do you kill a month? Oh, God. That's legit. It's legit.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And it ranges from
and
cats and goats to pigs and people.
Right.
That's wild.
It is wild.
I wouldn't even know how to answer that. I'd be like, no. Yeah. That's all I would say.
It's super shocking. When it happens, you're like, no.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. No. That's a perfect response. So I would say that, and then this concept of wielding power over people, that we're showing up here to wield power. And so the first thing I'd say is we're not running anything, at least not out of this building. And power over anything, I would say to both the Mason and the non-Mason that power is not found within these walls. It's the wrong place to come and find it. And I think that there are some Masons and people who have gotten a little bitter, whether they realize it or not, that they came here to find power, and then they You know, they take on positions or roles that they think is going to get them power, and they get a little upset when they find out they don't have what they thought they were after. Kind of a familiar tale.
Yeah, and so what power would you say?
It's quite a paradox.
Absolutely.
Which power are we?
Well, I was gonna say, well, yeah. What power is it really about?
Well, that's the thing, is that the uninformed Mason is seeking power over others. But really, as the real Mason would learn, it's power over yourself, right? That inward power over you. That's what causes you to go out and be better and spread influence, because ultimately people are drawn, to the better you. And then those are people that you don't have to try and influence. Those are people that are following you. They're actively going out and influencing others on your behalf. You don't even have to, ask. And so it's really an internal power. It's about being better.
Maybe, yeah, like circumscribing your passions or
Yes.
Yeah.
controlling your earthly desires.
100%.
And going back to the whole worldly, leaving the world out, but exploring that which is inwards.
Always. Always.
Yeah, because I feel like the world is, in general, we're always kind of searching for things out there. We're on this journey to go and obtain this or grab this or get to that, climb that mountaintop, get to that, job or that place in our life where we have this sense of completion and that we've conquered what we came to do in life. But I think a lot of that journey is definitely inward when you finally become aware that what you were looking for out there is actually inside of you.
Yeah. Because what do you, like you said, you're going to go climb that mountain so that when you get to the top of that mountain,
You still feel empty.
you filled it with what? Right? You're looking for a
False
feeling.
precept.
Yeah. Yeah. The mountain you got to climb is in here. It's up here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people just, they lose that. They lose sight of that.
And you don't get a break from yourself, like you're the one person that you really have to deal with and go to bed with and wake up with. And
Yeah.
that's like learning to be able to look at the reflection and feel proud, as opposed to like that egotistical pride, but looking at and being, realizing that, hey, I'm getting to a point where I'm reaching a selfless
Yeah.
idea about life, because normally everything's just pumped into you to believe it's all about you. Pump yourself, do things. It's your time. This is your life. Go, gimme. When you really start to look inwardly, you start seeing outwardly, and everyone around you becomes a thing of beauty, whereas before maybe it was a nuisance, or the people who are annoying you now suddenly are breathing
Whoa.
life into you. Like you have like this,
So deep.
like you're a Wizard of Oz, like when it goes from black and white and now suddenly the world's in color.
Oh, this is that definition. Of you get what you put in.
Yeah, that's what you get. What you put in.
That's the real lesson right there.
That was some
That is
pure
it. 'Cause you
good
are-
vibes right there.
Wow. That's the real lesson.
Well, it's one to keep meditating on, and what I've learned is like
Wow.
certain fundamentals like are exactly that for a reason. They're fundamentals for you to go
Yeah.
back and study and practice over and over, so it just becomes a part of your subconscious. Like the basketball players showing up to practice, unless you're Allen Iverson, but like the basketball players who are going through the plays and going through their jump shots, they're developing skill set to just not have to think about it.
Muscle
They're just
memory.
muscle memory, exactly. And I think it's the same thing with your spiritual self.
Wow.
You have to.
Dude,
Yeah.
this is beautiful. This is beautiful.
Special moment.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what this is all about, Masonic or not. Everything you said to me too brought me to the 3 tenets of Freemasonry: brotherly love, relief, and my personal favorite, truth.
That's a foundation if I've ever heard one.
Absolutely.
Yes. So that was beautiful. I think we should end on that high note.
I
We
did.
have
Absolutely.
reached our time.
Brian, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
will definitely be seeing more of you.
100%.
On this program.
Brother
Yeah.
Brian.
Yeah, it's been
Thank you so much.
an enlightening experience.
Yeah, absolutely it has. No, this was great.
Please make sure you comment, like, subscribe, and share this video. Until next time, my name is Keon.
I'm AJ.
And I am Brian.
Peace.